Okay, so now what we would be doing today is we would be having a look at some of the aggregation operators, and then we will be understanding what exactly aggregation pipeline and aggregation map reduce is all about. Okay, so for this, let's first start our MongoDB server and MongoDB client instance. So we'll first become the root user. Okay, then we'll say MongoD dbpath /var/lib/mongo. Okay, so now you can see here that your MongoDB server instance has started and it is waiting for connections on port number 27017. So now what we will do is we'll open up another console and we will start the Mongo client in there. So now you can see here that it has accepted a connection and one connection is open now for the server. So now what we will do is we will say show databases, and bookstore is a database which we had created earlier. So we will use this bookstore database. If we further go and have a look at the collections inside this bookstore database, then we have a collection by name my bookstore, MapReduce demo, and cats. Okay. So now what we will do is we will make use of the my bookstore collection to have the operations to do all the operations in this aggregation demo. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll say db dot my bookstore dot find dot pretty. Okay, so once we done execute this command, we will see that there are around 14 documents inside this collection. So we can make use of this collection now for our aggregation operations. Okay, so now the first operation that we are going to execute is the group operator. So the group operator, what it does is it groups all the documents in your collection based on some key. Like for example, we'll group it based on author. Okay, so let's do it. So we'll say db dot my bookstore dot aggregate. So aggregate is a method that you have to use whenever you have to perform aggregation operations or the aggregation pipeline. Okay, so in this I'll declare my first operator, which is the group operator. So I'll say that you have to group everything based on the value of the author. Okay, so in group operator what happens is you have two parameters or two arguments basically of a group operator. First is the underscore id, which will have the key or the variable of the key which is to be grouped by, okay, on which the group by will happen. And next is the accumulator. So here we are saying that the underscore id field of the output is going to be the value of the author key, and we are also saying that the accumulator for us will be something like total availability. Okay, total avail, which is going to be a sum of the available units for all the books of a author clubbed up together. Okay, similarly we will also have something called as total bookings. Okay, so this will again be a sum of all the bookings of all the books of a particular author, okay, clubbed up together, and this would be displayed for every author. This information would be displayed for every author. So if we see here now, then what we have is the author, for example Kitten Lens, has a total availability of 159 and total bookings of 175. Means what? From all the books that Kitten Lens has written, if we add up the availability of every book, then the total availability becomes 159. And if we add up the bookings for all the books that Kitten Lens has written, then it goes up to 175. Now let's validate this information. So what we will do is we'll open another console, and then again we'll start our Mongo client in there, use the same database, that is bookstore, then use the same collection, and find all details about my author, which is Kitten Lens. Okay, but in the output what I want is only display the required information. So I don't want ID, I want the title of her books, I want the available unit for each book. Okay, then I want the bookings for each book, and I want the name of the store in which these books are sold. So now these are the 5 books written by Kitten Lens. Okay, the first book of hers is Home Alone 3, which is sold at Royal Bookstores. The quantity available is 5 and the number of bookings is 1. Similarly, Day Out 2, Day Out 3 and Day In are sold in Royal Bookstores, which are written by Kitten Lens and have available units as 36, 87, 22 and 9 respectively, and bookings as 45, 20, 22 and 87 respectively. Okay, so now if we add up all the bookings, if we add up all the bookings for the books written by Kitten Lens, what we get is 5 plus 36 plus 87 plus 22 plus 9, which is 159. And if I add up all the bookings for all the books written by Kitten Lens, then what we get is 1 plus 45 plus 20 plus 22 plus 87, which is 175. So this is what we have here, 159 and 175. Okay, so good enough. But now what we have to do is, we have to display the author name as author name. Okay, we don't want to display it as underscore ID, because now I want to refine my search, I want to refine my operations or refine my work what I'm doing. So I don't want to do this analysis based on underscore ID value. So I want this as author. Okay, and what I want is, I don't want this total availability and total bookings. I want a subtraction of both of them so that I get the availability. Means so that I am able to calculate the demand and supply for every author. Like for example, here if you see that the demand is less and the demand is more and the supply is less, right? Similarly here, the supply is more than the demand is less. So based on this whatever calculations will do, the bookstores will decide whether they should buy or grab more or have stock of more books from this author, or they should buy less books from this author. So what we'll do is, now we already have this output, so we'll make the use of the same output and do our further calculations. So what we'll do is, we will add up another operator in here, which is called as the project operator. Okay, and in this project operator we'll say that we don't want to see the underscore ID value, so make it 0, but we want to see something called as author. A new key should be there in the output which will be called as author. Now where can you get the author from? So this is my author, right? This is my author value. So if I'm using the same output, means this is going to be my author value. So what I will be saying is that something has gone wrong. No. So what I'll say is, get my author value from the value of the underscore ID operation of underscore ID field from the previous operation. Okay, author value would be the underscore IDs field from the previous operation. And then we'll say that give me one more field which will be called as just avail, in which what you have to do is user operator subtract, okay, and do a subtraction between the two variables that we got from the previous operation, which is total avail and total bookings. Okay, now we have got some error message. Okay, we have done it a mistake again. This is value of total bookings. Okay, so now if you see here, now we have got it that we have 0 available for the author Bailey, 2 available for Helix, minus 16 available for Kitten Lens. Means here the demand is more and the supply is less. Means here we are short by 16 books. So this information will give an idea. This information will give an idea to our seller that which is the book or which author's book that we have to purchase more and which author's book we have to purchase less. Like for example, if you see here, then Leishore's books are available in 55 quantity. So I need not purchase his books further. Okay. So let's figure out whose books are not to be purchased. Okay, let's try to figure out whose books are not to be purchased. So for this, let's say that for all the authors whose books are, let's say, more than 20 in number, I won't buy books for them. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll use the same output now and try to figure out the refined result. So till here we got the above output, right? So now what we will do is we'll further refine this by adding a match operator. And we'll tell this match operator that give me only the list of those books or only the list of those authors whose available units are more than 20, greater than or equal to 20. So we'll say avail is greater than or equal to 20. Okay, so this is what we have got. Now let's sort it in proper order so that we come to know that which is the one that we have to buy and which is the one we don't have to buy. Okay, so we'll say that sort it based on a well and do it in descending order. Okay, so now this is sorted in the descending order. So Leishore's book is something which I need not buy. Steve Merrickson's and Dev Shinde is something which I may look into, and if the available keeps on staying at the same position, then I won't buy for them, or if the avail goes down, only then I'll buy for this. Okay, so this is how you can use aggregation operator to refine your result set and do some data analysis from into it. Okay, now let's figure out something else. So we'll say db dot mybookstore dot aggregate. Again we'll use the group operator, but this time we will use the group operator for doing a group by on compound keys. So earlier we did it only on author, here we'll do it for compound keys. Okay, so we'll say group it by seller and book, but we don't have anything like seller or book in the original documents or inside the collection. All the documents that we have in that, we don't have any key as seller or nor do we have any key as book. So what we'll do is we'll say that get the value of for this key seller from the existing key, which is your store. So store would be displayed as seller now, and book would be the value of title. So title will be displayed as book now. Okay, and based on this store and title, we will have our group by condition. Next up, the accumulator. So we'll say available is something that we have to calculate, and it would be a sum of the available units for every book in the bookstore, for every book in the bookstore. Okay, then what we will say is sort this based on availability, sort this based on availability in ascending order. Okay, so let's see what we have. So this is what we have got. This is sorted in ascending order, and for every seller we have a corresponding book and the corresponding number of available units. So now what we will do is we will further group it by the stores, so that we have all the stores together and all the books and all the available units together. Okay, and then we will calculate that which is the book that is available in large quantity and which is the book that is available in the least quantity, and we'll also calculate what is the number of available units minimum and maximum, okay, irrespective of the books. So first let's calculate which book is available in a maximum quantity and which book is available in a minimum quantity with all these bookstores. So we'll use the same information now, and what we'll do is we'll again group this everything together based on the seller value. So we'll say group. Okay, this time the key on which you have to group is the value of the object underscore IDs field, which is the seller. Okay, and the accumulator that we would be using is the book which is available in the least quantity. Okay, the book which is available in the least quantity, and we'll say that for this what can be the result, and means what kind of operation can we do. If we look at this, if we try to group all the royal bookstores together, okay, if we try to book all the royal bookstores together, then what we will get is a list which will have Home Alone 3, then Day In, then Home Alone 2, then Day Out 3, then Day Out, then Day Out 2, and Home Alone. And out of that, the first book to be listed would be the Home Alone 3, which is having the value as 5, right? Because this is all sorted in the ascending order, right? This is sorted in the ascending order and we are using the same output. So what we'll have to do is, if we want to get the name of the book which is available in least quantity, then from this output, after grouping everything by the seller name, we will just fetch the first document. So here we will say that if we want to calculate least available, then make use of an operator which is called as first. Okay, and grab it based on the value of the object underscore ID and the field book. Okay, we have made some mistake in grouper. Where is grouper? Okay, so this R is extra. Okay, so now if you can see here, the Raman bookstore has the least available value for the haunted house. So again come here, Raman bookstore, not Raman bookstore, Royal bookstore, Home Alone 3. Royal bookstore, Home Alone 3. So this book Home Alone 3 is available in least quantity with the Royal bookstore. Now similarly, if we want to find the maximum available units or the book which is available in the maximum quantity, then what we will do is we will make use of the last operator and we'll say get the most available. Okay, get the most available. Now if I execute this, we'll come to know that Home Alone is a book which is most available in the Royal bookstores. So now they don't have to buy more stock for Home Alone, they can buy more stock for Home Alone 3, which is least available with them. Okay, so this will give this kind of operations will help the seller to kind of manage his inventory and kind of place his orders, and make sure that he's not having a lot of some books and a very shortage of some books. Okay, now let's try to figure out that what is the minimum availability and maximum availability in for all these stores. Okay, so now what we will do is we will use the same this thing query, only instead of this we'll make some changes in this. So we'll say that the maximum available units is maximum available is make use of the operator max, and this will be calculated on the value of the variable avail that we got from the earlier operations. Okay, so Royal Bookstores has maximum availability as 87. Royal Bookstores has maximum availability of 87. Now if we calculate minimum availability, then we will use the operator as minimum, and we can get that the minimum available quantity is 5. So we can also get which book is available in minimum, which book is having the least availability, which book is having the most availability, and we can also calculate that what is the minimum available units and what is the maximum available units. So this kind of information, this kind of analysis will give the seller a better idea, or will help the seller to maintain his inventory in a proper way. Okay, so next up, let's have a look at some of the examples which will help us to do some more aggregations operator. Like for example, in this what we can do is we'll say limit everything means just give me 2 records. So now we can see that we have got only 2 records. Now there's one more variant like this, which is the skip operator. So understand the difference here. So what happened when you did limit to, you got the first 2 documents only. But when you did skip to, what it did, it skipped the first 2 documents. So limit will give you the first numbered documents, and skip will skip those many first documents, initial documents. Clear? Okay. Now next is another operator which is called as unwind. Next is we have another important operator which will help you in doing the analysis, which is unwind. So in this unwind, what we do is if we have like for example, we have this array, okay, which has apple, mango, banana, okay, and now this is mm, juices. Then what I can have is juices, what I can have is milkshakes, what I can have is pulp of all these fruits. Okay, so this is one way of writing it. The other way of writing it can be for apple, you can have juices, milkshakes, and pulp. Then for mango, you can have juices, milkshakes, and pulp. And for banana, you can have juices, milkshakes, and pulp. So this is one way and this is one way. If you have an array in this format, if you have an array in this format, then you can use the unwind operator to get this kind of an output. Okay, this kind of an operation can be useful wherein you had a combined result of something, but now you want to divide it separately and then display it. Okay, so now let's have a look at this. So we will say db dot my bookstore dot aggregate. We will use a projection operator, so we'll say project display title, then category and author. Okay, and we'll also say apply the unwind operator on my array, which is category. In this we have to know which is the array. Okay, and then I'll say limit the documents to 5 because the size will be too much. So what we'll do is limit it to, let's say, 5, and display this in a pretty way. So now here you can see that Humpty Dumpty had 3 categories: comic, kids, and laughter, and now it is distributed. Like for example, if you see this in a proper way, db dot see, Humpty Dumpty has the category as comic, kids, and laughter. But what here happened? It is completely distributed. Comic, kids, and laughter. Clear? Okay. Now there is one more this thing in which what you do is one more kind of operator in which what we'll do is we will copy this result into a new collection and store it in one collection. So for that we will use the operator as out and then specify the collection's name. So I'll say call. Okay, the collection for me is call. Now if I do show collections, then call is created, and now if I do db dot call dot find dot pretty, then we have that output. Okay, so with this what will happen by using this out operator, this result now became permanent. Okay, this result is now not just displayed on your console, but it is also stored on your server, and so that you can use it anytime and every time you want it. Okay, so now this aggregation pipeline is one way of doing the aggregation operations into our MongoDB server. Okay, now we have one more kind of operation, but let's see the first operation that we did. So this was the first operation that we did here, right? So what we did was we grouped everything based on the author value. We grouped everything based on the author value, and then we calculated the total availability and total bookings, right? Similarly, what we did was somewhere we calculated the grouped everything by seller and then calculated the minimum and maximum stuff, right? So now what we will do is we will make use of the second way of doing aggregation, which is map reduce, and try to figure out the same thing. Okay, and try to figure out the same thing. So now what we will do is we will say first declare a map function. We'll say var map function is equal to a function which does not have any arguments. Okay, a function which does not have any arguments. Inside this we will have another function called as emit. Emit means you have to put it and you have to give it, and it would be like this is a place where you will be doing the mappings. So what would be the mapping? We will map all the stores, will map all the stores with the corresponding available units. We'll map all the stores with the corresponding available units, and we'll close this function. Unexpected token. So we have made a mistake somewhere. FUN, spelling of function is wrong. Okay, so now we'll declare the reduce function. So we'll say reduce function is a function where you have to pass on the key and value. So the key for us would be the store, okay, and the second argument would be the values which would be available, okay, and then we'll write the body of the function. So in the body of this function we will have to return values. Okay, so we will use return and we'll say what you have to return as an array in which you have calculated sum of all the available values, of all the values available. Okay, now what we will do is after this both the functions are declared, we will execute our MapReduce operation. So we'll say db dot my bookstore dot MapReduce, and in this we'll pass the names of the map and reduce function that we created. So we'll say map function and reduce function, okay, and we'll say that put the output in a collection called as MapReduce collection. Something has gone wrong. So it is saying that property MapReduce of object bookstore is not a function. Okay, spelling mistake again. So as this MongoDB is case sensitive, this is capital R. Okay, so now it is executed. So now if I do show collections, I can see the MapReduce collections created. So I'll say db dot MapReduce collection dot find dot pretty. Okay, again spelling mistake. So now you can see here that all the stores with total available books is given in here. Okay, so what we calculated earlier was we calculated the authors and their available units. We calculated stores and available units for respective books. Then we calculated grouped stores together and calculated minimum and maximum value. Here what we did, we calculated the books, we calculated the store and the total available units. Okay, so the same thing you can do using your aggregation operation as well. So this is right. This is where we had calculated the minimum value. Okay, So here you can just say that instead of calculating the minimum value, get the sum of all the available units, and with this you'll also be able to get the same information. Okay, so these are the two ways by which you can do aggregation in MongoDB, and aggregation helps you to do data analysis by refining the data and by reducing the number of documents that you fetch after every or retrieve after every operation. Okay, so that's all for this video. Thank you.